folks, for copyright infringement. All right. So 25 ways to invest in real estate. This is a kind of an overview of how we teach people to invest in real estate at 4 Data Points Academy. And this is going to be, we're going to go into a little bit of detail of what people actually learn. Most people think that investing in real estate is just fix and flips and, the surface stuff. Those are necessary. I mean, every real estate investor should know how to do those things, but it goes a lot further than just investing in, a single family home or maybe your first apartment building or what you see on the internet, which is why a lot of the programs you see, in my opinion, hold on one second. What did we do? What happened? All right, looks like we got some trouble. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me get. I don't know where there's a freeze there, but hold on. I'll fix that in a second. That's the thing about being on these different platforms at one time. It's distracting. All right, let me set this up again. All right, it's all right. Y'all can stick with me. Okay. I should have somebody doing this for me. Where are my people at? They supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be doing this stuff on my own. All right. That'll take about 20 more seconds. And there we go. All right. And we are good to go, I think. All right. And we're back. All right. So most people think real estate investing is just, flipping homes, investing in, buying and selling notes. I mean, the fix and flip stuff gets a lot of publicity. People try to, present arguments for why one type of real estate investing is better than the other. And I found that when people do that, it's typically because they have something to sell you, which is okay. That's just the world we live in. But if I have something to sell you and it's just one particular strategy, and you guys have heard me mention this before, and it's just one particular strategy, then I'm not going to put too much emphasis on the negative aspects of investing in that particular strategy. So I want to go over all the ways that we teach people to invest in real estate. And I got about 25 of them. But, keep in mind, some ways of investing incorporates multiple strategies at one particular time. So when you see that, we can kind of dig into it and you can, use your imagination. Now, I'll start with the fix and flip stuff, but I got 25. And some of these investing strategies people are not necessarily utilizing when they first start out. So when somebody is starting out as a real estate investor, the priority is, okay, I need to make some quick cash right now so that we can have another conversation about, okay, where do we go from here? So I don't know why Instagram is tripping on me like that, but that's all right. That is all right. We'll see what happens. All right. So I'm going to give you guys an overview on what that actually looks like, and I may take the live stream off of some of these other platforms because they're very, very distracting. But maybe I'll break it down into categories, right? And most of what people know as far as real estate investing goes, they start out with the residential stuff. Now, everybody is caught up in these conversations. What's better, residential real estate investing, multifamily commercial investing, industrial? I say you should know it all. And as a seasoned real estate investor, you need to be able to function in any environment. So if one sector is not performing, then you can go to a different part of the country or a different sector or asset class and invest in that and still be able to put food on the table. But if you are married to just one way of investing, and I'll go as far as to say, if you are limited to just one geographical location, then as soon as that well runs dry, then you're tapped out. So when we talk about residential real estate strategies, fix and flip is going to be number one. So a fix and flip is you buy undervalued or distressed properties, you renovate them and sell them at a higher price, period. You buy something, make it worth more than you bought it for, and then sell it. It's number one. So that is necessary for people to know how to do. Even if you don't want to get into that type of real estate investing, everybody needs to start there, in my opinion, because what you learn during that process carries over into other types of investing. Now, the next thing is buy and hold, which is basically a fix and flip, but instead of selling the property, you keep it. And if you're going to keep it, that means you have to bring in permanent financing in order to keep it. That permanent financing is what makes it a hold. So you purchase a property and you rent it out to generate monthly cash flow and long-term appreciation. And your goal is typically passive income and equity growth. I'm big on passive income because it's passive income that is going to be able to support your lifestyle without you having to be actively involved. So ultimately, even if I do some active stuff, ultimately I want to get into a situation where an asset pays me every single month without me having to be involved directly. Number three, and we're still, this is, and I'll show you guys, I'll explain when we go to different categories. Right now, it's residential real estate strategies, fix and flip, buy and hold, house hacking. House hacking has a low cost barrier to entry. And what that means is you live in one unit of a multi unit property and rent out the others, or rent rooms in a single family home. So the goal is to live for free or low cost while others cover the mortgage. Time frame, that's ongoing passive income. Now, there are some limitations to that. I personally don't want to live around, my tenants, but you do what you can where you are with what you have. So if house hacking is one of your options and it's the only option, then take it because it's still a way forward. Now, let me see. Let me see who I got out there. Now, I'm not going to be going directly to all of the questions, but feel free, if I happen to glance over and see a question, I'll try to answer it. Ultimately, it can get much too distracting. Ellis, why don't you come up here and join me, brother? Because you always have really, really good input in the chat, and then you can probably you could probably answer some of these questions if I go on a tangent for too long. So shout out to Ellis over on Clubhouse. All right. So fix and flip, buy and hold, house hacking, short-term rentals, Airbnb. That's another way you can invest in real estate. Now, most of you guys know the short-term rental business model, right? You rent properties by the night or by the week instead of monthly. And the goal is to maximize revenue per unit compared to a traditional lease. And that's ongoing. There's active management, or you need some automation to go along with that. So I don't do short-term rentals in my properties. I will lease them out and allow other people to do short-term rentals. But I do not do short-term rentals because that is the hospitality industry. And I do not want to be in the hospitality industry. I am a real estate guy. So those are the main four on the residential side types of investing that people are going to do. So we have to teach them all four of these, right? Fix and flip, buy and hold, house hacking, short-term rentals. Now, on the short-term rental side, again, that's the hospitality industry. So if one of my students was doing short-term rentals and they had one-on-ones with me, I would probably set them up with a short-term rental consultant because that is their area of expertise. In real estate investing, one of the choices you're going to have to make is where do you want to make your money? And I can make money easier elsewhere than I can in short-term rentals. Some people would disagree. Some people say, well, I can make more money in short-term rentals than I can elsewhere. It's up to you to decide. It's my job to teach you all of them. So those are the four. Then we get into commercial real estate investing strategies. And the commercial real estate investing is really, it should be the natural progression for those getting into residential real estate that have the goal of retiring and using real estate to supplement their retirement. Multifamily investing is, it's in my DNA. For those that don't know me, my name is Otis James. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a licensed real estate broker in California, licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I'm a former mortgage broker. I was overseeing, in the multifamily commercial industry, I was overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. I'm licensed in insurance. I was a notary public. I had a national notary signing agency. Outside of real estate on the entrepreneurial side, I took just under $600, created a company that went on to generate seven figures utilizing an outsourcing business model. I also consult on real estate, not just domestic, but abroad. I've consulted on projects in different areas in Africa, Senegal, Gambia, and now Kenya. I'm working on something over there. And, we've done some things here stateside as well. I'm the founder of the Four Data Points Academy. That is the only real estate investing training platform that doesn't have an end date and where we teach anything you need to know about real estate investing. We go over a structured curriculum and then we tailor it to each student's particular situation, and then we support them in the practical application of those things that they learn. So today we're going over 25 ways we teach people to invest in real estate. We are on number 5. We went over the residential. We talked about fix and flip, buy and hold, house hacking, short-term rentals. That's the residential side. Now we're getting into multifamily investing. So this is when you purchase apartment complexes that are 5 units and above. You do it for income and scalability. So you're going to hear that word come up not just in real estate investing, but you're going to hear the word scalability come up in our entrepreneurship conversations also. Now, you guys know we are branching off into entrepreneurship. We are hitting that hard. That is under the brand Venture U, like joint venture. And we are kicking that off this year with our international business retreat in Medellin, Colombia, where I'm flying out every consultant you would need to start and scale your business. I'm going to house everyone. I'm going to feed everyone. We're going to do that for 5 days straight in Medellin, Colombia. We only have 16 spots, and we haven't really started advertising yet outside of the people in our close network. So if you are looking to start or scale a business, that is where you want to be. October 1st through October 6th this year. And by the time you leave there, you shouldn't have to ask any questions to anyone about where to go next. We will give you your entire blueprint. So if you think that may interest you, please look at the brochure first. You guys know how to get a hold of me. I will send it to you. I'll send you the link to the brochure. It is at ventureulive.live, ventureu.live if you guys want to go there before that. But just reach out to me. We only have 16 spots, and we are already planning the second international business retreat, which looks like it may either be in Thailand or Dubai. Exciting, huh? Y'all excited? Huh? No, just me? Okay, that's fine. That being said, so how else do we teach people to invest in real estate? Commercial real estate strategy. So multifamily investing. Again, I was at the corporate level when I left that industry. Technically, I didn't leave that industry because I own multifamily assets. So technically, I'm still into it, just a different capacity. But it was my job to make sure that these developments were profitable. So I have an operations background, and I also have, coupled with my real estate investing background, that's a pretty cool combination for people that are actually looking to learn this stuff. Number 6, retail, office, and industrial leasing. So you buy commercial properties, lease them to businesses. The goal, high cash flow, long-term. We go over what type of leases to use. I favor triple net leases, and we put our students, if they are in that process, then I step in and then we fine tune everything, make sure they have all the processes they need, make sure that they understand how to screen tenants, make sure they have systems for service requests, systems for eviction, systems for renewals, and all those things. So when people join the 4 Data Points Academy, it's not just enough to teach them how to invest in multifamily commercial. You got to teach them how to operate it too, and then you have to stay with them in case anything comes up that they're not prepared for. I was doing budgets totaling $80 million a year in the multifamily commercial industry. So just about every single income and expense you can imagine, I've had to deal with in some way, shape, or form. All right. Now, I got Clubhouse open. But if you guys on Clubhouse want to ask any questions, Dwayne, what's up, man? I see you down there. When I ask any questions, feel free. Karen, how you doing? I see you down there. So we got some folks in our real estate family here. You can throw them in the chat or just raise your hand and come up, and I'll go ahead and let you go ahead and answer your question. Just know if you guys come up on Clubhouse, your voice is going to be heard on some other platforms too. So just keep that in mind. That being said, let me turn this off here. All right. I think I'll let me get off Instagram. It's too distracting. All right. So retail, office, industrial leasing. So we buy commercial properties and lease them to businesses, as I just explained. The goal is high cash flow, triple net leases. That's where the money is. It's my favorite type of lease, by the way. And also triple net leases, you lease a property to a tenant who pays property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. That's truly passive income right there. So your margins are going to be a lot better if you can secure some triple net leases. These leases typically go from 10 to 20 years. But before you guys jump into that, make sure we have a conversation about it if you are in our real estate family, because there's a lot more you have to look at than just the type of lease and lease term. All right. Specialty real estate investments. Now, remember, that's the easy stuff. That's the sexy stuff everybody sees, right? Multifamily investing and fixing and flipping and buy and hold and house hacking and short-term rentals and retail investing, industrial, triple net leases. That's all the sexy stuff, but it goes so much further than that. And because you have to understand, you need multiple revenue streams. Now, I'm a fan of having multiple revenue streams, but I need those revenue streams to be connected, right? Like I don't want to have a real estate company and then like a barbecue spot and then like and then I do braids on them. I'm talking about revenue streams that all tie into each other. So these are opportunities to have multiple revenue streams in the world of real estate investing. Now, mobile home parks, a lot of people shy away from those. The mobile homes are depreciating assets, but they are cash flow cows. All right. So you own the land. You can rent out pads for mobile homes. You can buy the mobile homes directly. All right. These are high yield with low maintenance. So if tenants own the homes, it could be a really good situation. So I am not opposed to buying a mobile home park. You can get a mobile home park in some places for less than you can buy a house. But understanding how to put that process in place and how to operate it, that's where we have to come in and educate people. And sometimes I've got to step in and actually do some things for my tenants when they get an opportunity like that. One of the things I stress is, look, if you get an opportunity and you don't know how to do it, take advantage of it anyway. Say yes anyway. Have the conversation anyway, and then just bring it to me, and I will walk you through it so we can learn while we're doing it. But don't pass up on an opportunity because you don't know how to take it down. That's one of the things I tell all of my our real estate family. I don't like the word students or mentees or real estate family. When you guys hear me use that term, that is what I'm referring to. Folks that are in 4 Data Points Academy. All right, self storage. That's a big one. And I hear this argument going back all the time, or going back and forth all the time. It's what's better to invest in: residential real estate, multifamily commercial, or self storage, or some other type of industrial type of investing. I don't participate in those arguments because you should be able to do it all. You should know how to do it all. And then once you know how to do it all, you can gravitate towards whichever one you feel you're best suited for or helps you meet your financial objectives the easiest. But self storage is basically you rent out storage units by the month. There's low overhead, it's recession resistant income stream, and it's long term passive income. So you don't have to clean toilets or do any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about, AC units being stolen, and, you still got to evict people, but there's a process for it. But self storage is a cash cow if you understand how to do it, where to buy it, how to assess those deals. Right. And I got to help people with that. That's not a very popular one, but I assume that people in our real estate family, once they get to a certain level, that they're going to want to start delving into other types of real estate investing. So because we have no end date, whichever direction they decide to go, we've got to be able to, um, we got to be able to help them. All right. All right. All right. Let me see. What's up, Lillian? I see you down there. All right. So what else? Assisted living, group homes, residential property converted for seniors or special needs housing with caretaking services. That's also one. Now, because I'm very limited in the number of those that I do personally, I still teach people how to do those, but I may recommend bringing in a consultant. And if some of my students are looking to do that, then I have people in my network that do that, and that's all they do, the assisted living stuff and some of the group homes. So I would probably put them in touch with one of those folks. I'm doing it for residential, and I'm putting a system in place. Um, well, not necessarily. Well, something. It's a reentry program for a women's prison out in Texas. So we coach people on those, but it's really how to underwrite those types of deals because you're leasing property out by the bed. And that business model can be applied to whether it's assisted living, group homes, or any other type of transitional housing. Depending on what industry you go into, it's nuanced. So I may recommend, bringing in a consultant for some of those things. But that's a way we teach people to invest in real estate. And after that, it gets into financial and paper-based strategies. So what is a paper-based strategy? Wholesaling. Most people understand how to wholesale, what it is. They know it's a low cost barrier to entry. Out of 100 wholesalers, I'll say probably 5 of them are good based on all the ones that reach out to me. Many times I have to teach wholesalers about investing when they send me a deal so they don't continue to waste my time. But wholesaling is a very easy way to invest in real estate. But if you're doing the hardest part and securing the deal and you're just selling it off to somebody, then why not just learn to take it down yourself? Now, we used to teach wholesaling and I still do it, but not like it sounds. I teach wholesaling as a necessary component of real estate investing so that if you what up Otis finally made it, amen. So if you don't know how to, or if you choose not to take it down yourself, you can just pass it off to another um, investor. And there are some deals that I get that I can't take down myself because one, I don't have the time. Two, my resources may be spread out on other projects, or maybe a lot of reasons. So if I get a real estate deal in my hand, I'll go ahead and get it under contract, and then I'll just wholesale it to another real estate investor, or I could possibly wholesale it to one of my students. But I don't do that. I think there's a conflict of interest when you start doing that with people that already paid you to teach them how to invest. But wholesaling is a paper-based strategy. Real estate notes, buying and selling paper. Now, where is he left, Ellis? Okay. So buying and selling paper. So that's not something that's very popular, but it is a revenue stream. It's more of a long-term stream of income. It's basically you invest in mortgage notes and collect payments from borrowers. So let's say, let me look down there on Clubhouse. Let's say Prince down there has a mortgage he's paying on for 80,000, right? And the mortgagee, so he's the mortgager, the mortgagee is or the, let's call it the payee, sells me that note at 70,000. All right, cool. Well, I just bought a $80,000 note for 70,000, right? And now Prince starts paying me, but Prince still has to pay me the entire amount of the note, right? So that's more long term. It is something that I've done before. Just make sure that you're in compliance when you're doing that. If I haven't done one particular thing for a long time, then I'll make sure that I do a compliance check, make sure nothing has changed. Seller financing. It's another way we teach people how to invest in real estate. Seller financing and creating notes. And I am going to flip into the entrepreneurial stuff after this because I do want to promote what it is that we're doing on that side. First of all, is there any questions about anything that I went over so far? Whether it is seller financing, the wholesaling, real estate notes, assisted living, the group home stuff, self-storage, mobile home parks, triple net leases, retail, multifamily investing, any of that. Fix and flip, buy and hold, house hacking, short-term rentals, any of that stuff. All right. Let me see. Yes, assisted living, is it worth it? So when someone asks the question, is it worth it? I think the question should be rephrased to, is it worth it for you? So there's always an opportunity cost involved when you deploy some capital. So if you deploy capital or time and energy into one particular thing, that means you are giving up what you could have been doing with that capital, time, and energy. So is it worth it for me to do an assisted living? Possibly, right? It's You really have to default to the numbers, and the numbers are going to tell you, is it worth it for you, right? So if you're interested in that, Lily, and I know people that are doing that, that business model, I was looking to attach to 2 assets that I own. So if you want to get started with that, reach out to me and I can get you squared away on the right path. And folks, I'm really big on not taking shortcuts in the traditional sense, but I done already had all the headaches and trials and tribulations and the hard lessons and all of the stuff associated with real estate investing over the past, 30 years. So I can save you a lot of time and energy, but I can't, I can't force you. So if you guys are looking to do something, let me know. I'll show you the quickest way to get there. Private lending. Private lending is a way that we invest in real estate also. And how is private lending possible? So I was on Clubhouse. Oh, well, hold on one second. Wholesaling. I don't understand how to source deals, and I'm having trouble finding cash buyers. Well, then you don't know how to wholesale, Joe. Uh, not that I mean, I'm not saying that to sound any type of way. I'm just saying if you can't source deals and you can't source buyers, that's pretty that's I think you're pretty much dead in the water there. I would look at for you, I would look at instead of wholesaling, I would look at learn how to find a are you trying? All right, that's what's up. I like to see that. I would look at finding a source to create lists for people that are in some tough situations and then seeing how you can provide a solution for those situations. And I would probably focus on seller financing, maybe subject to financing, which is really just, wraparound mortgages. Or I would look at learning how to pay for real estate out of your exit strategy so that capital is not one of the obstacles. So yeah, and I would use probably something like PropStream, which same thing everybody else uses, PropStream, REI Pro, or one of their competitors, and start creating lists and start marketing to these folks. So if you're not doing any marketing, then it's going to be hard to source deals. And that's a very important part of wholesaling, which is that's also a very important part of real estate investing. As a real estate investor, you got to be a wholesaler too, right? Or at least act like a wholesaler when you are sourcing the deals. So reach out to me if I can just show me what your objective is, why you want to get into wholesaling instead of just investing in real estate. Because again, as far as wholesaling goes, you're doing the hardest part. You're just passing it off to somebody else when it's time to take it down. And that's also active. You don't want to have to be doing that forever, right? So it's better to learn early on how to pay for these things out of your exit strategy and how to get over all the challenges, whether it's credit, money, network, time, whatever it is, so that you'll become a seasoned investor a lot sooner rather than later. Let me see. All right. So seller financing, creating notes, private lending. Private lending is a way to invest also. And this is a conversation that I have over and over and over again. Somebody will come to me, they'll say, "Hey, I got $20,000. How can I invest it?" I'll say, "Well, we got," and this is somebody in our real estate family only. This isn't somebody off the street. So I'll say, "Well, I'll look at their situation and then we will come up with a number on what they would qualify for." And most of the time I have deals floating around somewhere. Or I'll say, "Or you can lend on this project." Now we look at the math and the risk. So you can lend on this project for a 10% flat fee. They're about to exit in 60 days. So that means you get paid back in 60 days. So what's 10% of 20,000? 2 grand. So 2 grand in 60 days. Now compare that with anywhere else you would deploy that capital. Is it better or is it worse? And then you can decide whether it's worth it for you. Now you got to compare the risk versus lending that money out or putting it into whatever you were going to put it into outside of that. So, private lending is profitable too. Sometimes I prefer to do that over anything else. I was on Clubhouse one day. I don't know. Some of you guys may have been in that room. This is about, I think it was about 2 years ago. And it was a big room. There was like 100 people in it. That's when I used to really schedule these rooms and kind of be on it. And what happened was there was a young lady that was getting ready to, she was closing. She was getting ready to close on a deal right now. And she was like 4,500 bucks short. So I said, 4,500 bucks. And she seemed like she was real motivated. And I always like that. I always like to help people that are very, very motivated. And so I said, all right, well, I'll send it to you so you can close. So I sent her and she set the terms. So she said, she was like, yeah, give me 4,500. I'll give you 6,500 back or something like that. And so I said, all right, cool. Send me the escrow information, not send me your information so I can send you the money. Send me the escrow information. So I wired the funds into escrow, told him to secure it with a note and security instrument. And so it placed a lien on the property. And I got a check back like, I actually forgot about it. I got a check back like, I don't know, like a year later or something. It was supposed to be 6 months, but it ended up being like a year for 7,200 bucks. Now, even though I didn't, even though it took longer than expected, it was the easiest with 3,000 bucks, give or take, I ever made. So sometimes lending is safer because it's secured by the real estate than doing anything else. So we teach people how to lend privately. Lend money to other real estate investors at high interest rates secured by the real estate. That's a good way to have passive income. Strong returns. You're talking about 8 to 15% return. It could be short term or long term, depending on the deal. So when somebody in my real estate family, when we want to put funds together, I kind of take the lead on it to make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing and that everybody's in compliance and so on and so forth, right? So that's a way to make money in real estate investing. Number 15, REITs, real estate investment trusts. Folks, that's really just like investing in the stock market. So you're invested in shares of a professionally managed real estate portfolio, right? So it could be public, it could be private. Most of the time it's public. And the goal is you're looking at dividends and stock appreciation. I'm not really big on investing in the stock market. Real estate blows it out of the water every single time. I had just under $500,000 at one point. I was kind of playing in the stock market with. I ended up taking all that crap out. Too unpredictable. And I think it can be manipulated. So, but do what you want. It's your money. But REITs, real estate investment trusts, I used to work for one of them. I've invested in them. I'm very familiar with them. I'm like JG Wentworth. I need my cash now. It takes too long to get paid, and I can't wait for no dividends. All right. Creative financing. So what type of creative financing do we teach people at the 4 Data Points Academy? All of them, right? We don't know what type of creative financing you're going to need when you wake up in the morning. You don't know what type of deal is going to fall in your lap. So if there's no immediate solution, and I'll have my students call me and say, all right, well, let's look at it together. There's always a solution. Now, getting somebody to agree to it is one thing, but there's always a solution. Always, 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 always. I don't care what it is. People just give up too early. And I think based on the information most people have, they just consider themselves dead in the water when they don't meet certain criteria. I don't have the capital, I don't have the credit, whatever it is. Right? Again, being a seasoned real estate investor, and I'll continue to go back to this, being a seasoned real estate investor, you got to be able to function in any environment. All right. Period. Subject to financing. You guys are familiar with that. Well, you're familiar with the name. You may not be familiar with how it's executed, but you are familiar if you're in our real estate family. So it's basically you take over a seller's existing mortgage payments without formally assuming the loan. Now, there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. I teach it the right way. Most of the time, the way I see it taught is, I won't necessarily say the wrong way, but it increases the risk of triggering that due on sale clause. But the goal, acquire property with minimal upfront capital. Time frame depends on the strategy. You can make it a flip, you can make it a long-term hold. So that depends on you. So understanding what you can do with that investment strategy and what you can't do, what the limitations are, that's important. There's been some times where I had to actively get involved to some of the transactions that my students were in because the investor that was selling it to my student was making it look far more attractive than it actually was. And when my student was conveying all the information, all the upside to me, I said, something didn't sit right. So we went back and did our own due diligence. I said, let's go back and run the 4 data points. All right, what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Based off the answers to those questions, we can see if it's a viable deal, regardless of what that investor told you it was. So, and it ended up not being. All right. So subject to financing, that's another strategy that we teach. Lease options, rent to own, that's another strategy we teach. Now, keep in mind, these are all just tools. I'm not married to any of them. You'll never hear me make an argument about this type of investing is better than this type. No, you look to see what the scenario warrants, and then you pull the best and most effective tool out of your pocket to be able to take that down. Now, lease options are absolutely outstanding. This is what I tell people when you're down bad. Let me put my glasses on. This is what I tell people when you're down bad. If you are down bad, right? And let's assume I woke up today and I lost everything. I'm probably not going to be able to jump right back in it like all of the gurus say that they can. If I lost it all, I have $1 million tomorrow. Okay, dude. All right. So, but this is one of the things that I would do. I would look at lease options. I would go on Craigslist, and I don't care if I have to go on every Craigslist situation around the country, right? There's 1,000 cities on Craigslist, probably more than that. And I would reach out to every single person. I'm trying to complete a deal before I leave for BMT, but I don't have much capital, so no wholesale. Oh, reach out to me, Joe. Just reach out to me. You let me know what the scenario is. I'll give you a solution for it. All right. So, and there I got distracted again. What was I saying? Dang, oh, what was it? What was I just talking about? Oh, lease options. Oh, so what I would do is I would go on Craigslist and I would ask every single person renting a piece of property out if I could lease their property for them. Then I would try to negotiate the price. If they're still on there, and let's say they want 1,800, I'll say, hey, look, I've got steady income. Could you do it for, 1,700 or whatever it is? And then once I compared that rental rate with what Section 8 in that area was doing, then I'll go ahead and see if there's a delta and I'll go ahead and pocket that. Or I can do the same thing, but I would rent it out. I would sublease it to somebody doing short-term rental arbitrage, depending on the location. But that's how I would start it, some type of arbitrage situation. And I would basically set it up with a lease option, because if it was profitable and my situation changed in the next 24 months, then I would exercise my option to actually purchase the unit. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with this stuff, but lease options is probably something you should have in your back pocket because it can generate revenue. Not a whole lot, not life-changing revenue. So I say if I lost everything, that's probably where I would start, lease options. And it's basically rent to own. So you control the property through a lease with the option to buy it. And then the profit, you want to profit from the rent and or option fee, useful in slow markets. So this is if you are owner of the property and you're giving somebody else a lease option. Now with lease options, there's three ways you can make money. One is the option fee. That is the person paying for the option to purchase it later at a later date. Marche, reach out to me and just say, I'm interested. I will get you, I'll get you squared away today. Let me see. So you get paid off the option fee, which is they pay for the right to be able to buy it at a later date. I will typically elevate the rent just a little bit, just a bit above market. And then I will give them a credit for some of that if they decide to exercise their option to purchase. So I've got the option fee, I've got the elevated rent, and then I've got the proceeds from the actual sale. And because they've already been a tenant, I have a mortgage finance background too, folks. Because they've already been a tenant, they can just refinance into the property, and then I can give them a percentage of their equity, a percentage of the equity, so that they don't have to come in at 100%. Maybe they can finance it at 96.5% using FHA or whatever it is. So a lease option gives me the ability to kind of massage the deal to make sure they get qualified or make sure that they can take it over. And, then it's back to the races. And then if they decide not to exercise their option, that's fine. I'll just do it again for the next person. But a lease option, I know people, that's all their business. That's all they do. Do we need a realtor license to do real estate investing? No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I don't even use my real estate broker's license when I'm investing. And I've invested in the state that I'm a licensed broker in. It's just not worth my time. So I'll partner with another brokerage or another agent, and then I'll just have them do it. As a real estate investor, you're going to start seeing the world through a different set of lenses than as a real estate professional. And you'll get to the point where you're like, yeah, it's just not worth the time. So no, you don't need a real estate license. I tell people, look, get your real estate license anyway, right? It's a revenue stream, adds credibility in some conversations. So if, it's not hard to get it, go ahead and get it. All right. Good question though. Who is that? Charles Nolan. All right. On TikTok. Good question. All right. What else do we teach? Wraparound mortgages. You sell the property with seller financing while keeping the original mortgage in place. That is like subject to. It's also, we also call that an all-inclusive deed of trust. But the goal is to profit on the spread while between the existing and the new financing. So if you've got somebody in a mortgage, let's say I'm paying 4% on my mortgage, and then I want to seller finance my property to somebody else at 7%. Well, I can go ahead and do that, and I'll just pocket the spread. Now you got to have your paperwork in order to do that and be effective, because if you don't, then you can get into some trouble or some compliance issues. You can violate your mortgage agreement, trigger a due on sale clause. So make sure that you understand how to do that. So when my students are doing that, most of the time I'll just set up the paperwork for them. Man, we're good, ain't we? All right. So what else do we teach? Joint ventures, partnerships. We teach people how to execute these, and more often than not, I've got to do the paperwork for them on this. It's basically, you partner with other investors. One brings the money, the other brings the expertise. In some cases, one can bring the credit, and the goal is to share the profits based on the value provided. So time, capital, credit, whatever it is. Time frame, any term, depending on the project type. For my students, I like to look at all of the agreements, even if they're doing it outside of us, um, I tell them, I say, look, before you make any major decision, talk to me first. If there's usually something, shady about it, or maybe there's something, maybe there's just something that's off-putting about it, I can usually pick it up in the first, couple minutes. But they may want to go do it outside of, look, I'm only their mentor. I'm not, they don't have to, they're not forced to run everything through me. And some students will go out there and they'll do what they know. I'll leave it at that. But I do just say, look, just run everything past me first. Then we get into the more complicated stuff. Now, I told you guys I was going to show you 25 ways that we teach people how to invest in real estate. And it's not just the sexy stuff. Raw land development or raw land flipping, really. This is one that's really, really cool. And it's something that I never got to do as much as I wanted to because, if I acquired some raw land, I usually had an agenda for it. But this is something I think would actually be fun. And when I was working in the multifamily commercial industry, I was on the operations side, but I was also out I would go to the development side and the construction side. And I got to go to all these different departments and see how the process goes firsthand when they're buying this vacant land and they're getting ready. Thank you for sharing, Shay, on TikTok. Appreciate it. And it was just exciting to me. I thought it was really, really cool. So flipping land, you basically buy vacant land at a discount, you resell it at market value or with seller financing. Um, and it's very, very simple, right? It's quick cash. It can be passive income from seller financing. It can be short-term or long-term, depending on your exit strategy. Most people are like, okay, well, how do I find land at a discount? Well, I get people all the time that come to me and say, hey, I just inherited 30 acres here, 40 acres here, 60 acres here. All the time. There's just people out there with land that just don't know what to do with it. So partner with some of those folks and see how much money you can make doing that. Now, raw land flipping is not to be confused with land development and subdividing. Land development is when you buy land, you subdivide or improve it. I'm just talking about utilities and roads, and then you sell the parcels individually. That's not the typical development where you're buying the land and developing, apartments or whatever it is. It's just land development, subdividing. So there's large profits through forced appreciation, and you can sell these back to investors. If I'm looking at buying some land and it's already gone through the entitlement phase and it's already prepped for me to go in and do what I want to do, that's going to be way more attractive than if I have to go and do it myself. And depending how much land it is and where it is, you've just gotten past a lot of the red tape. So if I was going to go develop that land, you just saved me possibly a year going through red tape. So, it's something that I teach because I enjoy it. But it's something you got to stay on top of because the rules can change very, very quickly when it comes to land development and subdividing. It has a tendency to, let me see what's up. What was that question? It has a tendency to sit a while before you find a buyer. No? Yeah, but it's just like anything else, right? It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who knows what you do. So it's going to sit for longer if less people know you have it. So you have to have a marketing plan or some system in place to let people in your network know, hey, I've got this opportunity. So if you haven't built up a network, then that's probably something you can start doing today. Go into PropStream or go into REI Pro or one of those systems and look at research in a particular area, all of the cash buyers or all of the multifamily commercial buyers, and just create a list and start marketing to those folks. That's what I do. All right, so land development, subdividing, yeah. So that's about when you buy the land, subdivide it or improve it. I'm just talking about utilities and roads, and you sell the parcels individually. And then there's new construction. So teaching people how to manage a new construction situation. Some of my students they've already got the land, they want to build something on it. So I teach them how to assess it, figure out what the highest and best use is, and then determine if that's the best way forward. All right. For example, if one of my students, and for new construction, we'll just talk about build new homes or buildings and then, sell them or rent them out. Right. The goal is to profit from the ground up development. So if somebody's going to build something, it's my job as if I'm their mentor to teach them, okay, let's run the 4 data points. Let's see if building something is going to be more profitable than rehabbing something that's already existing. So we run the 4 data points. What does it cost? Okay, that's the cost of the land. What does it cost to fix up? Well, it depends on what we're going to improve. So we have to figure out what the highest and best use is. What's it going to be worth when we're done? Now we can look at our exit strategy. How much income can it generate if we're going to keep it. So then I have to teach them, hey, this is how you compare the cost to own versus the income that it can generate, and you tell me if that's worth it for you. All right. So we still run the 4 data points regardless of what it is. Now, 23. I told you I was going to give y'all 25. 23. Another strategy we teach people is build to rent. And by teach people, I mean my students. Build to rent. Develop new homes or communities specifically to rent them. Again, just because I can teach you how to do it doesn't mean it's always going to be profitable. And if it's not going to be profitable, then you should probably go another direction. There's enough things that you'll come across that aren't profitable in your real estate investing career. Don't worry. It is a Tuesday. Okay, same question. All right. Okay. All right. How do I get more info? So you can just text more info to that number right above my head, Gabe. And thank you guys that are sharing the room over on TikTok. We're doing, this is a new page for us, so we got to build it up and do all this. I think we just crossed 1,000 followers, and so we got to start from zero. So I appreciate it. You guys that are on Clubhouse, if you guys are interested in becoming real estate investors, there's a link right at the top of my head, 4 Data Points Academy. I always encourage people to ask the right questions, and sometimes I give them the questions to ask. A good question is, how much support do I get and how long do I have it? All right. We're very transparent in all of the things that we do, 100%. We think we add the most value, so we're very proud of not just our pricing, but what we offer, what we teach, and how much support we give folks. I think that's what sets us aside from any other organization doing what we do. So build to rent, that's 23. Now, do I teach this? I teach about it. I don't necessarily, real estate syndication. So you pool money with multiple investors to buy large properties managed by a sponsor. Okay. Now keep in mind, I teach that, but not on the scale that it sounds. Real estate syndication is highly regulated. It's governed by the SEC. There's a huge compliance component to it, and it takes long. I don't want to create another job for myself. So what I'll do is I'll put groups of people I already know who we already have an existing relationship with, and then I will teach them how to do a deal with just the 6 or 7 of them. I'll take the lead on it. I'll give them 90% of the profits. I'll even forfeit my 10 if we come too close to breaking even. But I would only do these for my students because I think it's an excellent learning opportunity. You got 8 or 9 people, they're spreading out the risk, and and it's going to be very, very, what do you call it? It's going to be a good learning opportunity. That's the point of why I do it. And there's not a whole lot of profit in it for me. But in the traditional syndication, I'll bring in syndication consultants. Now, syndication, that's something that I think I'll have to get into that one day, only because 70% of my time is spent mentoring, and my real estate investing app actually supplements our program, so we don't have to keep raising prices. So there will be certain types of real estate investments I'll be forced to do on a larger scale because the small ones aren't going to pay the bills at some point. All right. So real estate syndication is something that we teach. Again, if you are getting into real estate syndication, I would recommend getting a real estate attorney that specializes in syndication or hiring consultants to guide you through the process. I have never successfully done a real estate syndication, not the ones that's governed by the SEC. We looked at doing it once or twice, but it just didn't do anything for me. I don't like asking people for money. So, and number 25, tax lien investing. Now let's go ahead and say tax lien and tax deed. I teach them both. I teach people how to invest in tax liens, teach them how to invest in tax deeds, and teach them how to assess the deals to make sure that $500 house is actually going to be profitable. Most of the time they aren't. Tax deeds get really, really tricky. I know more people in trouble with tax liens or tax deeds than any other type of real estate investing out there. Now, there's people that make money doing it. I'm not saying it can't be profitable, but you've got to be able to look at everything. All right. If you can buy a house for $500 through a tax deed sale, why is it Morgan Stanley just coming in and buying all of them across the country? All right. They could probably do that because it's not as profitable. All right. It's not as profitable. So I teach people what to look at on the tax deed side. Let me see. I bought 2 liens last month. So tax liens, congratulations. So tax liens, you're basically purchasing a debt. A tax deed, you are purchasing the actual deed. Now, a tax lien can be converted to a tax deed, but there's different counties have different rules for how that's to come about. But it's my job to teach people what the risk is. And I'll go over it really, really quick since we're on tax deed or tax liens. Well, both. So if you buy a house for, let's say you buy a house for $2,000 from a tax deed sale. Well, you're approaching it like a consumer. So when you think like a consumer, a $2,000 house is, man, I came up. Shoot, $2,000 ain't gonna hurt me. I didn't spend that on whatever, right? So you think that the most you can lose is the $2,000 you bought the house. But now it's your house, and every fine associated with that home goes to who? It goes to you. So that means if there are any code violations, that goes to you. If the property is habitable, now you fall under tenant landlord law. You are now responsible for maintaining the habitability of that property. So everything that was broke and that the tenant was complaining about, if you can't be a slumlord, now you have to fix it. And you haven't had time to build reserves. Now, some people will buy these tax deeds and say, well, yeah, I'm going to buy them. Utilize the BRRRR method. I'm going to buy it for $2,000, go get a hard money lender, have them finance the rehab, and I'm good to go. The problem is you didn't run the 4 data points on that property. What are the 4 data points again? What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? And because you didn't ask that, you didn't know that what you paid for the property and what it's going to be worth when you're done is far less. Well, specifically what it's going to be worth when you're done is far less than what it's going to cost to get the property in good shape. So now you're in a cash situation. You got to pay cash to fix it up. If you don't have the cash to fix it up, well, guess what? You can't get financing for it. So you're done again. The 4 data points. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Thank you guys on TikTok for sharing the room. All right. Now, if you guys want that 4 data points guide, most of you guys already have it, but that's the one I give away for free. I give it away to people just to protect them, make sure that they can't get into something that they can't get out of. I make sure that we start with the 4 data points when I'm dealing with, students, people that I mentor, because I got to make sure that they're protected when I'm not in their presence. And I know that if they ask those 4 questions, what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Then I know it's going to uncover information they may not have known to ask about, and it'll stall them in the process if that stuff looks off, and they'll call me. We could look at it together. So I mentor 350 people, give or take a few. All right. When you mentor that many people and your program doesn't have an end date, that means you have to be ready for anything that can go wrong, period, in perpetuity. Right. And I don't have the luxury of, people graduating and then I say, hey, go be great, and I don't have to see them anymore. No, they're going to look at me until the end of time. So if something's not working or they get into trouble, it's going to be me that has to bail them out. I take on that responsibility. All right. And I do that because I genuinely believe we can turn people into real estate investors, and I'm willing to bet my money that we can be successful in doing so. All right. Any questions about the 25 different ways to invest in real estate that we teach? Quick recap. I broke it down: residential real estate strategies. So there's about 4 main ones: the fix and flips, the buy and hold, house hacking, short-term rentals, just the sexy stuff y'all see online. And then there's the commercial real estate strategies: multifamily investing, retail, office, industrial leasing, triple net leases. That's we got to number 7. And then the specialty real estate investments, we got into mobile home parks, self-storage facilities, assisted living, group homes, basically transitional housing and all those business models you can attach to it. And then we got into the paper-based strategies. Wholesaling is the most popular one, right? Find discounted properties, put them under contract, then assign a contract to another investor for a fee. Real estate notes, buying and selling paper. I think that was number 12. Then we got into seller financing, private lending, REITs, real estate investment trusts, where you're investing in shares of professionally managed real estate portfolios. And then we got into the creative stuff. So 16 was subject to financing, lease options, rent to own, wraparound mortgage, also called all-inclusive deeds of trust if you're from California. Whoop, whoop. Then we got into joint ventures, partnerships, and we got into land development. And again, these were all the things that we teach our students to be able to do should they decide to go in that direction. Raw land flipping, land development and subdividing, new construction, build to rent. And then we got into some of the bonus stuff, right? Real estate syndication. Again, that's heavily regulated. I do not teach the regulated version of real estate syndication because I haven't completed one. And I'm not going to until I have to. It's probably going to be maybe I can hold out for another 2 years or so. Let me see. Joe says, does that make the deals not worth? Okay. So in Alabama, we have a 3-year period before you're able to obtain a deed on a lien. Does that make the deals not worth it? Again, so it goes, you always got to ask, is it worth it to you? Now, there's some deals that may be worth it to you that aren't worth it to me. There are some deals that are worth it to me today. Hold on one second. There are some deals that are worth it to me today, but may not be worth it to me tomorrow. So we look at the math to determine whether it's worth it, right? People are going to have different opinions, right? If I'm looking at a deal and Grant Cardone is looking at a deal, it's probably not going to be worth it to him because he has a certain price point that he needs to accomplish, he needs to achieve to make it profitable for him. I have other agendas, right? I have a different agenda. So we look at the math, and it's my job to teach you how to read the math to see if it's worth it. But a 3-year period before you're able to obtain a deed on a lien, you could be getting payments. Well, so let me break it down for you guys. So a tax deed, that is ownership. You are buying the ownership. You are going to be the owner of the home, barring any redemption periods that are in place. With a tax lien, you're really buying a debt. So whereas at a tax deed sale, you bid up, all right, I'll pay $1,000. All right, $1,200. All right, well, I'll pay $1,500. On a tax lien sale, you're bidding down. So we'll start it at 10% interest. Somebody will come in and say, okay, well, I'll do it at 9% interest. Somebody will come in and say, I'll do it at 8% interest. So is that enough money for you, that 8% interest over 3 years, to make it worth your while? For me, it's not. Like my students, we're making, like if you're not making 20, 30 or 40 grand on your first deal, something's wrong with that. And we need to reevaluate, and then we need to do it again and fix whatever it was so we can, pivot next time so we can achieve that. I had some students that made 80,000 on their first deal. I have some students that made 10,000 on their first deal. So we really let the math determine whether it's going to be worth it to do that type of investing. I don't think there's any foolproof type of investing. I think that all you need to do is be able to mitigate risk and get a full understanding of what the numbers tell you to be able to make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to move forward or not. All right. But again, there is no, hey, this is the best way to invest. This is the worst way to invest. All of these are just tools. All of these are tools. So imagine you're building a house and you got your tool belt. You've got 25 tools in that tool belt. You got your tax lien investing tool, your syndication, your build to rent, your new construction, your land development, your land flipping, your joint ventures, your wraparound mortgages are subject to, your lease options, your REITs, your private lending, seller financing. Anything that comes up, you got to be able to have a tool for. Real estate notes, wholesaling, assisted living, self-storage, mobile home parks, triple net leases, retail, multifamily investing. If an opportunity comes up, the first thing you're going to do is look in your toolbox. And if you don't have enough tools to take it down, what do? You're going to miss out. So again, we look at the first 7 or 8 weeks. That's just fundamentals. Guys, you got to know how to assess a deal. That's day one. You got to understand how to move forward when you lack capital. That's seller financing, subject to financing, structuring deals creatively, paying out of your exit strategy. You got to understand value add. That's typically what we do in week 3. As a matter of fact, those in our real estate family, this week is all value add, by the way. You got to understand value add. You got to be able to make a property worth more than you bought it for. And you got to be able to predict the outcome before you get fully committed, right? Now, then you got to understand how the lending works, right? Hard money lending, conventional lending. Even if you are bringing groups together, you got to understand how that stuff works. Then you got to understand how to find a deal. What process do you need in place to be able to fill your pipeline? You could be the most savvy real estate investor in the world, but if you can't find anybody to work with you or find any potential clients, then you're going to be dead in the water anyway, right? So you've got to understand that. So when I'm teaching people, and I teach 90% of the classes, folks. I don't. That's something that I've got other people that can come in and teach some of these classes. But our first 5 years in business, I said I'm going to teach a majority of these classes. One, I can do it faster. Two, I can look at somebody, and I've taught enough people to know I can look in your face and tell if you understand it or not. I can look in your face and tell if you're just too kind of embarrassed to ask a question. So I have a line of questioning that makes people feel comfortable about going back and forth. And I don't want to pass that off to somebody that may not have that. So we will have to eventually bring in other trainers. I'll tell you right now, it ain't gonna be today. All right, that's not something I'm handing off. So we go through the first 8 weeks of fundamentals, and then we do ongoing continued education. Why is that important? Ongoing continued education is important because things change. The tax code changes, the economy changes, your financial situation changes. Your financial situation can improve and it can get worse. So we've got to be there for you. If it improves, all right, great. Let's scale up asset class. Or if it gets worse, okay, well, let's look. Let's focus on some of the creative stuff. It's time to pull the parachute. We just got to generate some capital today. So let's come up with that type of plan. So after the basic fundamentals, we typically will encourage people to share where they are so that we can come up with a plan specific to those folks. All right. Now, for the folks that have one-on-ones with me, you guys, you can just call me every day and, hey man, I need to generate 10, 15,000. All right, cool. I got something. Let me find 5 other people that need to generate 10, 15,000, and I'll put y'all together. We could all do something. So that's the type of stuff that we do also. Any questions about that? Any questions about that? Thank you for the folks that shared the room on TikTok. I'll say it again. We're growing our page. So, we got to do the whole like and follow thing. All right. All right. Welcome back, Nancy. What's up, Carmen? I see you down there. What's going on, Steven? You guys are more than welcome to come up on stage. There's a lot of familiar faces up there. Friendly Flipper, what's going on, brother? You're more than welcome to come up. Share your experience on the flipping side. Karen, how you doing? Nice to see you. All right. Nasia, what's going on? Fernando, what's going on? All right. All right. All right. So, yeah, so that's the gist of it. 25 ways, 25. And I think there's more. I think I probably could have went up to about 30, 35 ways to teach people how to invest in real estate. Because some of these things, when you they get a little more complicated when you're using multiple strategies at one time. So one of the challenges when working with lenders is, let's say you have a deal and a lender will typically finance you about 80% of it. And some mortgage products, they'll finance more, some less, but typical is about 80%. So you have to come up with the other 20% yourself. The only thing is when you go to borrow that other 20%, the lenders they'll typically say, all right, well, you're not allowed to borrow anything else outside of us. So they have a loan to value requirement, which means LTV is loan to value. So they will loan you a percentage of the value. But there's also something called a CLTV, combined loan to value. And combined loan to value says, we will loan you a percentage of the value, but the combined loan to value is also limited to what we lend. So if your LTV is 80 over 100, what they're saying is we will lend you 80% of the 100%. If they're saying your CLTV is 80 over 80, what they're saying is you can only borrow 80%, whether it's from us or anybody else. So now you're getting into the more complicated stuff. Well, how do I come up with the 20%? If I don't have it, am I just dead in the water? Well, no. So there's been times I had to teach people, okay, do this. Let me talk to the seller let me put the communication together anyway. Let me put the communication together with the seller, and we're going to ask the seller to gift us 20%. And obviously the seller is going to say no. Why would they do that, right? But we are going to put together let me see, who is that? But we're going to put together a seller financing or a seller carryback agreement. We're just not going to record it yet. So the lender will give, and then we'll hand that to the seller to go ahead and record whenever they want to record. They typically will give it to escrow, and escrow will record it right after we go on record for the initial transaction. And that way They've gifted me 20%, but I gifted it right back to them in the form of seller finance that they can record and add a lien to the property that goes in second position after the original deal closes. Let me see. Coach Lucas says investing $200 to get the profit of $4,000 in 3 days of trading. If you're interested, DM me on WhatsApp. I tell you, as soon as they say WhatsApp, you better get your money taken. All right. Anybody? I'm sorry, I erased that comment. But if anybody wants to make $4,000 a day off of $200, I figured if I was making $4,000 a day off of 200, I wouldn't have time to be posted in people's. All right, let me stop. All right, where was I? All right, that always distracts me. Okay, so I want to get into entrepreneurial stuff in a second. Is there anybody in the? You guys know if you guys want to get more information on what we teach, how the process goes, what onboarding looks like, exactly what you learn, the benefit of not having an end date, and you want to talk to some other folks that are in our program, you guys know how to reach out to me. You can just click that link up top or just message me directly. You folks on Clubhouse, I don't really check Clubhouse too much like that. I mean, I'll turn it on when I'm doing another live stream, but don't message me through Clubhouse. If you tap my face, tap my picture, you can hit me on, Instagram or email me or one of these other ones, but not Clubhouse. It'll get lost. For you folks on TikTok, you've got the number up top, 702-710-8030. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give it to you guys on Clubhouse too. You guys just text me, I'm in. Text me the word I'm in, and I will get you squared away. I'll take it to the promised land. All right. See, I should have people that's doing all this so I don't have to keep stopping, but that's all right. I'm not bothered. I'm not upset. Somebody gonna get fired though. I'll tell you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute. All right. So you folks on Clubhouse, put a 1 in the chat if you own a business. Put a 1 in the chat if you own a business on Clubhouse. You guys on TikTok, put a 1 in the chat if you own a business. Put a 1 in the chat if you own a business. Nobody owns a business? Even your real estate business? Okay. All right, Jeremiah. That's what's up. Carmen. Okay. All right. And both just happen to be in my real estate family. See, y'all better catch up. All right, who we got? Vaughn's house. So Vaughn owns a business. All right. So I love real estate investing. I love teaching people how to do it. I love entrepreneurship. It's just, we live in a country that is just the easiest country to make money in. And I don't know whether, maybe it's because, I used to follow my dad around all the time. He used to take me to business meetings, or maybe it's because I was able to generate capital at a relatively young age with, very little work. And I'm referring to back when I was a notary public, and some of you guys know this story. I was a notary public, and I'll give you the whole story. How I did that. I got into that. So I got out of the Navy in 1998, went to work for the cable company, and I was one of the first DSL techs. So they came out with this new invention of giving internet service over the cable, right? That just came out. We were one of the first techs in California to work on that system. Because before then it was, you folks, y'all remember when you had to plug the phone in, you had to plug the computer into the phone outlet in the house, and you couldn't be on the phone. You had to be on the phone or on the computer. You couldn't do both with the 56K modem. No. All right. Well, these youngins, it was a whole different. So I was on that team, and, I stayed there about a year and a half. And then I got an offer from the phone company. They were working on something different. Now you can get cable or internet over the phone line, DSL. So I went to work on their system. And then one day somebody came in and they said, hey, we're downsizing, and we're going to give you $25,000 for if you resign, and we'll also add 2 weeks pay for every year that you've been here. And then by the time they did this, I had been there coming up on 2 years. Now, I'd never seen $25,000 at one time. I was in my early 20s. I had never seen $25,000 at one time in my entire life. So what did I do? I called HR and changed my W-4. I was like, yeah, I'm tax exempt. I don't know. I figure I will cross that bridge when I come to it. I'm tax exempt. So I got my $28,875 and I quit. No job, no nothing. I had all types of obligations, but I was like, I don't care. So what did I do? Now I would like to tell you, I would like to say that, I took that money and I invested it smartly. I would like to say that, but I did not. I went and bought a car, financed a car. Then I went and bought some rims. Then I went and bought some TVs to put in the headrest. And I know it's hard to believe. I know this is hard to believe. I was broke in 6 months. So I had to go back. I had to go back and get a regular job. And and I think that car even got repossessed to make it all better. Shout out to all those making good decisions in their early 20s. So I was leasing apartments, and my dad was a notary, and I hadn't got my real estate license yet. This is like 2001. And so I was like, all right, I'll be a notary public. And as a notary public, I specialize in signing loan documents. So when you bought a house or refinance, I would have to come and notarize those loan documents. So I had three in one day. So I was working in Oakland, California at this new high rise that we were leasing. And after work, I was going to go do these three signings, and I would make like $125 a signing. So I made more doing the notary than I did when I was leasing these apartments. So there's always a bad thing that happens. Oh man, I'm about to give you also a gem. There's always a bad thing that happens that makes you do something else. And I'll give you an example. This was my bad thing. And it happened twice. And the second time it happened, put me in a position to create a company that went on to generate seven figures. Most of you guys know that story. So I get off work and I got these three signings. One is in Oakland, that's a city I'm already in. One is in Alameda, which is a neighboring city. The other one is in like Boulder Creek, like Santa Cruz. It's 90 minutes away, right? So I did my first one in Oakland right after work. It's about 6:30. I get to my other one at about 8 o'clock, and I'm dead tired because I was working in San Jose and I was commuting. I was dead tired. When I tell you, and the third one had to close, like it had to be out to FedEx first thing in the morning. So I kept telling them, hey, can we reschedule? They were like, no, we need this to close. We'll stay up as long as you need. Just get here when you get here. My second notary signing was with an attorney in Alameda. I remember, it's an older white dude, and nice enough guy. And I don't know why I said older white dude. I could have just said older dude. I could have said older dude, but I want you guys to get the visual. I want you to see it like I saw it, right? He was an attorney and, sharp guy, right? When I tell you he read every single letter in that document package. Now, pause. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of these document packages, but this was two loans. It was a first and a second mortgage. The first one was about 70 pages. The second one was about 40 pages. And I had to sit there and fix my face as if I was not losing my mind the entire time. It is 9:30 at night, and I still got to drive an hour and a half to do another one. And I ended up doing it. I was dead tired when I got home. I said, I'm never doing another signing again. So this is what I did. Once I packaged everything up, got it, dropped it off at the FedEx thing and did all that. I went back and I looked at the documentation where the people that hired me. So what happens was if there's a signing in the area, the notary company will call and look for a notary in the area to do it. So I just took all their paperwork. I remember I scanned it and then I made it into a Word document. And then I just took out their name and put my new company name that I didn't even have yet. Right. Like I didn't file a DBA yet. I didn't do anything. I did all that after the fact. And then I started reaching out to title companies all across the country, telling them, hey, I'm a notary now. I'm a signing agent company. We operate nationwide. Right. So I would start getting orders in like Hawaii. I got an order in Alaska. I got an order in Philadelphia. I get an order in, Houston, Texas. And what I did was every time I got an order in, I would just use that paperwork that was sent to me and then make it my own. And then I would just go to the National Notary Association database, put in the zip code and find a notary and hire a notary in that area. So it was zero overhead, right? And they would take it, but the escrow company would send me the check. So they'd send me $150 and I'd send the notary like 100. And I started doing a bunch of those, right? And I was utilizing the outsourcing business model. That was the first time that I was able to generate some income without actively having to really be involved in the process. Utilize the outsourcing business model. Now, because I'm about to get into entrepreneurship in a second. Now, the reason I say that is because even though I didn't get rich doing that, like I probably made a few $100,000 doing that. But the ability to do that stayed in my mind. That education stayed in my mind. And so 20 years later, give or take, maybe a little less, opportunity comes up again. Now, by this time, I've got all the relationships already. I'm a part of a bunch of different associations. I know the real estate professionals all across the country. So it's happened again. So I was doing a real estate deal for a close personal friend of mine. And I'll just say, I didn't like how it turned out. You know, the person in charge, which wasn't my friend in that relationship, but the person in charge, I'll give you a hint who it was. She had ovaries. And she was the boss. She wanted to sell a property for $1.2 million. I knew as a real estate professional it couldn't sell for that much. I said I can get you $1 million. What's up, Jasmine? I said I can get you $1 million. I said fine, we'll do it at 1.15, and it ended up not selling. The implication was I was doing something to keep it from selling. I released them from the contract and said, you know what? Go hire somebody else. And guess what? They hired somebody else. And it ended up selling for $1 million. No apology, no nothing. But it was that moment where I went home, went to my office, and I was pissed, right? For a number of reasons. And I ended up, I don't know how I said, you know, I said this quick prayer, right? I always do these quick prayers. I said, Lord, I don't know what the issue is here, but I know you didn't create me to feel like this. And I just sat back. And then I happened to be looking outside. I always pace in the front of my house when I'm stressed out. So if you're ever driving, you know, if you're ever driving by my house, you may see me walking back and forth on the lawn, just because that's how I think. And sometimes you'll see me talking to myself. Long story. All right. So I did that this time. I go outside and I see a company truck. And I just got the thought to start that business. But I don't have any equipment. I don't know anything about that business. So then I remembered what happened when I was a notary. I just got the orders and hired the people that were already doing it. It's outsourcing business model. I did the same thing again. Went, got a website. It was like a $14 website. Went to Grasshopper and got the phone extensions and set it up to where I looked bigger than I was. Filed the LLC paperwork with the Secretary of State. Probably wasn't a very strong LLC. I'm sure if it was challenged, they would have been able to pierce it, but it was legal. And I started taking these orders, and I got about 40 orders. I got about 40 orders a week. 40 orders a week. And I can't give you guys too much detail because there's some non-compete and some NDA stuff that goes along with that. But I'll say this: that company generated 7 figures in the short time that I had it, and I could have kept it and really grew it. I just didn't want to be in that industry, and my ability to generate revenue I already had a lot of confidence in that. So I ended up letting it go at some point. The money just wasn't worth it anymore. But it was the education that I got 2 decades ago from that notary company that allowed me to do that. Now I took money from that and just invested in real estate. And because real estate that's my bread and butter, right? And it was because of that that I was able to accomplish so much more. And then we had the pandemic, and then everybody ended up knowing who I was after a certain amount of time, and so things just kind of took off on their own. So I say that because I want to share that, because both times it didn't. One time it was $585 it took me to get started. The time before that, it was I don't even think it was. I don't think I didn't have a website. I think it was just I just gave my contact information out and my email, and people could email in requests. I had a process in place that didn't. I don't even think I got anything from the Secretary of State. I think I did that all wrong in my early 20s, but the money was coming in. And, I had some tax people take care of any issues that I would have had on the tax side. But knowing that I could do that stuck with me. So now I'm about to shift the conversation from real estate to entrepreneurship, because they can be one and the same. But you guys keep in mind, I'm a real estate investor first, but I also have a company that teaches real estate investing education and now entrepreneurship, sales training, leadership, and some other things with the help of my good friend, Dr. Alfred Smith, and some other folks that I are participating in that. So I want to get into that because I said, how many people are starting a business? And you guys that are starting a business, some of you put a 1 in the chat, but this also applies to real estate. Why? Because you want to be a real estate investor, but you don't want to be actively investing forever because it can be very stressful. Ask anybody that's flipped a few houses. Ask some of my students. I got some students that are like, look, if I don't ever flip another house, it'll be too soon. Right? It's not as glamorous and easy always as it seems. So eventually you want to step away, but have a real estate investing business where you can delegate everything. You've got systems in place so you don't have to physically be there, and you can hire people to be you in all of these different situations. All right. So now that we're talking about the entrepreneur, first of all, anybody got any more questions about real estate or anything? Any questions? I don't want to glaze over that. All right. So I'm gonna give you some steps on the entrepreneurial side because again, when we start thinking about retirement, we can't be actively involved in everything. We start talking about that work-life balance and all of these other things that come with entrepreneurship. You've got to be able to have a business that runs on its own. And I see a lot of people mess this up from Jump Street. Now, some of us are more fortunate because if I start a business now, boom, like I'm right on it. Like if people that know me know, if we get a business idea right now in 30 minutes, there's a plan together, we're already executing that evening. By the next day, there'll be a link somewhere where you could buy whatever that service is. Like I'm on that. But there are startup costs that a lot of people don't really understand. And real estate has funded a lot of the other projects that I wanted to do. And corporate America has funded a lot of the other projects that I wanted to do. They funded all this business because when I was working in the multifamily commercial industry, I was making relatively high income relative to the average person. So things were a lot easy for me, right? But when people are starting businesses, I say, okay, understand what your startup costs are going to be, because it's one thing to get an idea, it's one thing to have a side hustle, it's one thing to have a hobby. But when you are actually going to put yourself in a position where you can make a living doing that, then it requires planning. It requires planning. All right. So I tell people, all right, get your startup costs together. Legal and registration fees. Have you put any thought into your legal and registration fees? That is very, very important. Business formation, business licenses and permit, DBAs, doing business as filings, trademark, copyright filings. When I have those conversations with new entrepreneurs, 9 times out of 10, they haven't even had that conversation yet. All right. This is important. Professional services. What professional services do you need? You need an accountant or a CPA, or you need to be able to track everything. You got to set up a bookkeeping system, even if it's QuickBooks, whatever it is, you got to be able to track all your income and expenses. If you're doing contracts, you need an attorney. Now, if you're doing real estate contracts, you're in the real estate business, most of the small business documents you can get on eForms or Rocket Lawyer. All right. So you don't have to necessarily just run out and get an attorney. That's not the first thing. But for the more complicated stuff, then you may want to seek the counsel of an attorney. Business consultant or coach. Business consultant or coach. I think the coaching industry is trash right now. I think, let me see, I'm trying to raise money to buy rentals, private money lenders, or HELOC. Okay, Jesse, reach out to me, man. I got a whole network of people that can help you with that. So just reach out to me, Jesse. Just text that number up top. Just say, hey, it's Jesse, and just type in what you wanted to say. I got people that can take care of you. So a business consultant or a coach is extremely important. Let me give you an example. Once you start figuring out all of the costs, right? Legal, registration fees, professional services, website branding, technology, equipment, inventory, if it's product based, uh, there's a lot of different things that you have to consider when you're starting a business. So what I did, and you guys keep hearing me talk about that Venture U, I don't want to call it a project because it's in place. We're going. So Venture U is for entrepreneurs. So we took every possible consultant that you would need, whether it's an attorney, whether it's somebody to do legal structure, whether it's somebody that specializes in sales process, SOPs, anything having to do with any possible business. If you had to call every single consultant to get you from zero to up and running, which ones would you call? I picked out 8 of them. There's going to be 9, but I picked out 8 of them, and I'm flying them all to Medellin, Colombia, and they're all going to be in the same house, and we're going to knock your business out in 5 days. Everything, right? Not hey, schedule a 30-minute call. No, they're going to be in the same house. So we're not going to get past a certain stage of your business until we figure it out, a blueprint. That's what prompted that entire thing. When I was starting out in business, I didn't have that. We didn't even have the technology that we have now. Well, technically, we didn't even have the internet technically. So when I first got started, so on the entrepreneur side, these are all the things that I'm bringing together for people for this. Okay. So we're talking about startup costs, website and branding. Got to have a domain name. Even in real estate investing, we talk about when people join our real estate family, there's a 60-day action plan that we give everybody. And that 60-day action plan was actually developed by a company called REI Pro, which is, we call them friends, organizational friend of ours. We use PropStream, but shout out to REI Pro. And they had it on their website. I actually reached out to them and said, "Hey, you guys' 60-day action plan is really close to the one I'm using for, or I'm developing for my students. I'll just adopt yours and give you the credit." So I got their permission and they allowed me to do that. Right? But one of the things on that 60-day action plan is buying your domain. And as a professional, if you are conducting business and you have your company name at Gmail or at Yahoo or at AOL for some of you baby boomers out there, y'all get a pass, but for you know what I'm trying to say. And you haven't purchased your own domain, you are shooting yourself in the foot before you even get started. Splurge the $11 to buy the domain so you can start conducting business and looking like a professional. That's a small detail that a lot of people just miss. And we understand there's an underlying drive to do what you can where you are with what you have. I say that all the time. But there's some things that you need that if you move forward without them, it could hurt you more than you take an initiative in that case can help you. That's just a simple one, right? So website branding, your domain name, even if it's just a landing page, your logo, your branding kit, marketing materials, whether it's an e-business card or brochures, those things require some thought. You have to give those things some thought. Technology and equipment, computer, phone, printer, and software. If you don't have a computer, you got to get one. If you don't have a phone, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't have a phone, you're probably not hearing me right now anyway, but you got to get one. Printer, software, all right? What software do we need? Well, a consultant will tell you the software that you need. I use all types of software for business, all types, all right? Canva, I had to get good at Canva. I used to hate going in there. I paid people to go in there and do all the stuff, but nobody could measure up. So it forced me to go in there and get good. Then I started enjoying it. I also went to school for graphic design a little bit. So that was one of the things that it was necessary. Right? We don't do a lot of marketing. Most of it's social media stuff. Right? Technology and equipment is very, very important. Your startup costs should incorporate this. If you've got inventory, if you're product based, that's a separate conversation. So we'll just leave inventory out of it. Obviously, you're gonna need some inventory. But I do have a way to approach inventory. If you have an idea before in your product base, before you go out and buy a bunch of inventory, please allow pre-orders and be able to use that data to determine how well your product is going to perform. I would rather do it the right way than get a bunch of inventory, put all my eggs in that basket, and then realize that now I'm just stuck with a product nobody wants and all this inventory. So again, a consultant is going to teach you about that. So before you make any of those decisions, make sure you talk to a business consultant. Office or workspace. Home office is fine if you know what you're doing. I had one, two, three offices at one time at one point, three, and my my home had more equipment than any of those offices. So I ended up just going to these offices to meet clients, right? But it didn't make any sense at one point. This is years and years ago. It was like 2 decades ago. It just didn't make any sense. So if you have a workspace at home, it's okay to have a home office. But again, like you guys that can see me right now, this is a dedicated space that I have that I can teach from, right? I have what you see this way. You guys can't see all the stuff facing me, but in the back you can see workstation back there and big printer over there and all types of I have a 3,000 watt lighting kit and about $10,000 worth of camera equipment, all that other stuff that I never use. But I can create from here. I can do whatever I need to do from here. If you don't have that, make sure you have a space in your home that you can work from. I have there's nothing that I There's nothing that annoys me more when I bring somebody in on a live stream or something, or maybe we'll all be, I'll put 5 or 6 people together. We're going to do a project or an event or something. And then that person comes up on, their Zoom or whatever, and it just does not look professional. It doesn't reflect well on any of us. And it's like, come on, man, just get a mic, get a lapel, like those things. Right? How you present yourself in the beginning can impact how people see you in the future. Again, there's certain things that you should have in line. And again, I'll say it again. It's great to take initiative and do what you can where you are with what you have. Take action, take action, take action. But be strategic, because you can take action the wrong way and the long-term effects can be detrimental to your image. And a lot of this goes with branding, professionalism, how you prevent yourself, or how you present yourself, how you prevent yourself. You will prevent yourself from making money if you don't do it the right way. All right. So, one-time startup costs. Understand that starting a business is going to cost you something. I don't know why people think they can start a business and it not cost them anything. Legal and registration fees, professional services, website branding, technology equipment, your initial inventory if it's product-based, office or workspace setup. Notice I said workspace setup. Furniture, fixtures, rent deposit if you're going to be leasing, setting up utilities. But again, a home office is fine. Just put some time and effort into it. Make it a quiet space. Now, sometimes I'm on dad duty, and sometimes you guys will see a little 3'8" human being walk into my office. I leave that door unlocked and I allow him to do that because, one, I'm already established, and two, I'm usually talking to people online that have lives and families, and they're my students. And, the whole reasoning behind how we're set up is to be flexible for people, right? People have jobs and they got to survive first. So when they want to learn how to invest in real estate, we do it in the evening. So I have no problem with my son walking in here because that's real life. Now, I got somebody out there watching him, but that's real life. So he can come in here, I'll put him in my lap, and if I got to shut this thing down because I'm talking to him, then I got to shut this thing down because I'm talking to him. I don't get them that often. Well, I get them every other month. So, you know, this is what it is. But just take that into consideration when you guys are talking about getting started as a business, how you present yourself. Now, okay. All right. So now there's ongoing costs. So those were the startup costs. What are your ongoing costs? All right. Now keep in mind, if you are looking to have a real estate investing business, not just become a real estate investor. Becoming a real estate investor is step one. That's when you're learning everything. Having a real estate investing business is when you pawn all the duties off to someone else and you just sit back and collect a check. You typically aren't going to have a real estate investing business within your first 12 months because you're still learning how to do everything. You're still learning the different investment strategies. You're out there, you're going through maybe some trial and error, some successes, some wins, maybe a couple losses, and you're learning and learning and learning. And I'm right there holding your hand through the entire process. But eventually, you don't want to be actively involved anymore. So understand that real estate investing education should be part of your business startup costs, right? Now let's go into ongoing costs. All right, ongoing. Now we were talking about real estate investing earlier. I have the 25 ways that we teach people how to invest in real estate. If you guys, we already went over that. So if you guys want that, just go ahead and shoot me a text message. I will send you the list of all of the different ways that we teach people how to invest in real estate, all the different strategies and all that. I'll get it to you. Ongoing costs for entrepreneurs: monthly rent or lease payments, utilities and internet, software subscriptions. If you're starting off, I would recommend having doing this out of your home office to see how effective you can be. If I have a home office, but I also have the option to take over other spaces down in my area. If my home office doesn't allow me to do what I need to do, I'll just go get a bigger space. But it has to make sense. And again, for too long, I had multiple offices that I never went to. Sometimes I would just go to the office just because I felt like I ain't been there in a minute. All right. So just make sure you understand where to put your money. I would start with a CRM, email marketing tools, accounting software, things like that, right? Because what you're spending in office space, you could be spending in social media ads, Google ads, SEO, and build up your sales. Sales drives everything. All right, whether it's service-based or product-based, sales drives everything, okay? Insurance. errors and omissions insurance, or if you do have an office or whatever else you're doing, you're going to need some type of insurance. Typically, general liability insurance, workman's comp, possibly, professional liability, which is errors and omissions insurance. It's part of the conversation. And you guys, I'll send you this list too, because this is uh this is just a list that I put together. I put this together probably about a year ago. And part of the reason for putting all these lists together is because I've have multiple businesses, and I was doing my business plan, and I wasn't trying to get funding and I wasn't trying to get investors. I just wanted to make sure that there was never a question somebody could ask me about my business that I didn't know. And this startup cost list was one of the things that I had to put together. All right. And then I just adapted it for some of my students that actually have other businesses. And it's not my job to coach them on outside of real estate investing, but if I have the knowledge, then I'll go ahead and coach them through certain things outside of real estate investing. All right. So we talked about startup costs, talk about legal and registration fees, professional services, website branding, technology, your initial inventory of your product base, office or workspace setup, ongoing costs. It's really going to be, I think your biggest costs are going to be software subscriptions, marketing, and advertising. Now, even with this list, I don't expect you guys to just take this and know what to do with it. There's a lot that goes into starting a business, and the problem is it's so sensationalized and only the wins are highlighted on social media. Everybody thinks it's easy. So the reason I put these 8 people together is to do all the hard stuff with you so you don't have to figure it out later. All right. That's called Venture U, by the way, folks. All right. Payroll, contractors, put everybody on 1099 when you start. All right. Put everybody on 1099 when you start. You don't have any money to make payroll, right? And even if you get funding, which we provide also, by the way, we'll get you funding. It's how are you going to utilize those funds, right? Don't just hire this team and have that expense on day one hitting your pocketbook and you can't generate any sales. So there's a way to go about that. But again, these are ongoing expenses. You're going to have to pay some people to do something. I just think it should come out of sales, not out of your own pocket, with few exceptions. All right. Shipping costs, legal and accounting fees, all that other stuff. Now, you should also have an emergency and contingency fund, which is hard. Everybody says you should have an emergency contingency fund, but most of the time, entrepreneurs, they put everything into their business. And if they're not working a regular W-2 job outside of that, it's hard to build up a contingency fund. So if you can't build up a contingency fund, you really need to have a consultant, because they can tell you where to allocate time and resources. So you're not going to get put in a place where you're starting off too in debt. All right, folks, I think we're going to wrap up because I'm starting to hear furniture moving out, out there. Hey, look, I appreciate you guys sharing the room. You guys that came on TikTok, I appreciate that. We're building up our TikTok page, so if you guys could follow us, it would really mean a lot to us. I think I may stay on TikTok for a little while longer. Clubhouse, you guys are more than welcome to come over on TikTok. We can talk about the real estate and the entrepreneurial stuff. Rose, if you stay there, Rose, I'm gonna bring you up because I do want to talk about the lending and funding options over on TikTok. I'm gonna shut down the Clubhouse room. Let me just make sure that there's no more questions. If you are using how do you determine utility costs? Well, if you're using your home, the utility costs are already there. I think it's just a matter of how do you account for it for tax purposes. And there's a formula that they use based on how much of your home that you're using. Jeremiah says, Otis, can you give me a call when you get a chance? Got to talk about a tenant? Absolutely, sir. I will give you a call today. That being said, you guys on Clubhouse, I'm going to put this number in the chat again. You may need to scroll up, but I'll put it right here. What's up, Angel? I'll put it right here, 702 710 8030. You can text me there if you need any information on real estate investing mentorship, our Venture U International Retreat in Medellin, Colombia. Yeah, fellas, you heard it here first. Medellin, Colombia. I did that for y'all, fellas. See? All right. No claps, no hand claps. All right. Fine. That's cool. See if I think about the fellas on the next one. All right. All right, so Clubhouse, you guys can go ahead and join us on TikTok. At 4 Data Points is my handle on TikTok. I'll put it in the chat. And so screenshot it, do what you need to do. You can join us on TikTok, and then we're going to rock out on TikTok. I'm going to try to rock out for about 20 or 30 minutes more. I can give you guys some more real estate investing strategies and put you in a position to win. Amen? Amen. So I'm going to shut down Clubhouse right now. And you guys have a good day. Hope to see you on TikTok. You folks on TikTok, see now I got another device. Now I can play my it's hard for me to do this with no background music. All right, so I'm gonna stop live streaming too, because they always want to hit me with the copyright infringement.